Today I thought I'd do a quick video about exotic dice. Now, when I think of exotic dice, I think of just the Arby's dice, which for some reason are now selling on eBay for over $120. But no, if you start to talk about exotic dice on the internet, eventually you will fall in pretty deep well of knowledge on the subject, and the one place that keeps on coming up is the artisan dice and their whole thing with exotic dice made from exotic materials. Now, they've had a whole slew of stuff. Honestly, I think that this is kind of the classic Kickstarter thing of a guy who had a good small business, but then Kickstarter allowed them to grow that business way too quickly, way too fast. So they had a decent business, but they immediately made $250,000 on Kickstarter, and they kind of just got this. It snowballed and got out of control. That's what I think. In any case, unfulfilled Kickstarters, ghosting orders, not ordering, not getting back in touch with anybody who orders stuff, and then eventually quality issues with the dice. The big thing, though, that everybody talks about is the ethical sourcing of materials, specifically two materials. One of the materials was Mammoth Tusk. Now, if you didn't know, Mammoth Tusk, for a while there, started to become the ethical way to use ivory because there are Mammoth Tusks available, so there aren't as many rules against that. And, for example, Chinese people love ivory carvings, but China, the government, decided to make ivory from elephants illegal, and thus a huge influx of mammoth ivory from Russia started to happen. Now, Vice did a whole video about the Russia's woolly mammoth tusk trade, where they're talking about this weird, like, hydro mining that they do. And unfortunately what happens is that they end up destroying scientifically valuable specimens in their destruction of mountainsides to get at the mammoth tusks, which they will then sell to China. So, yeah, making dice out of those, that's not the greatest thing. Technically, it's legal. But then the other one was the Memento Mori Dice. Now, if you don't know what that is a dice made out of human remains, specifically human bone. Now, on the website for Artisan Dice, on the website it says that the bones are sourced from medical university skeletons that have been retired. Now, we live in America, the home of opportunity and no laws, no rules, just right. But basically, there's no federal laws, really, regarding human remains, except for, I believe there are some about Native American human remains. So that's state by state. In the state of Texas, however, specifically anatomical gifts and medical and research exemptions are a thing. However, you can't really authorize the use of medical and research remains for artistic purposes. So this is like a very gray area, which it's just kind of weird that, like, these dice are still available to purchase on the website for Artisan Dice. It's still there, clearly showing an anatomical specimen that they're specifically saying that is what's going to be put into the dice, which is kind of wild. Now, obviously, I understand art. There's many ways that you could probably ethically source something like this, but I honestly don't think this is one of those ways. Personally, and in my opinion, the person who, even if this person who were the original anatomical medical use was sourced from, they probably specifically checked the box that said, hey, I'd like my stuff to be used for scientific purposes. And this is not scientific, this is art. So I'm not quite sure how it's possible for all these years later. Because again, this started like 8 years ago, was the Kickstarter specifically. I believe where this became widespread that they were making dice with human bones in them. 8 years ago, and yet this is still happening, and you can still back order these. Now they're not available, but they are in fact back ordered, which is just that's some wonky stuff. Would you really want a human dice made if it looked like this? Because that's unfortunately what one customer got, and obviously the quality was not up to par. And it's just kind of weird that a human being, part of their body, is in a dice which most people would consider to be a factory error. It's odd, and somebody paid $300 for it. Damn. Now, even if we're talking about stuff like products that they currently have available, including African wood, exotic African wood includes environmental issues like deforestation and economic issues such as illegal logging. There's not much transparency in the wood trade either. So, I never understood the thing about spending hundreds of dollars for dice. There's lots of cool people who make very interesting dice, and they do it with materials that are both sustainable and ethical. I personally don't get it. I would never spend hundreds of dollars on a set of dice. But after looking into some of this exotic dice stuff, honestly, the Arby's dice from Norse Foundry, they don't sound too bad. Let me know what you think in the comments below.